So first we have to identify, I think, the major aspects of your digital footprint. And I'm going to breeze through some of the more obvious ones and really target some of the ones I think that is going to open your eyes a little bit. And that is the digital breadcrumbs left behind whenever you're internet surfing. And then we're going to go into social media, the quote-unquote free email communication, which, as we all know, free means a cost to something, to someone. We're going to take a look at geotags, and this is simply location data from apps, from emails, from phone calls and pictures. Credit card purchases, reward programs, and financial interactions are pretty much bundled in together. However, a lot of times people separate those out only because, credit cards are, the hot button. I've got my credit card data stolen. However, they don't understand that rewards programs, a lot of your rewards programs, offer the same kind of identifiable information along with it. And then finally, we're going to take a look at the public information footprint that you have. What I'm going to explore here, like I said, is high-value content. Not only am I going to go into high-value countermeasures, I'm also going to show you how to tactics for guarding against such intrusion. So let's take a look right now at the big one, which is internet surfing, because everybody does it. And so what I want to say here is, unless you are focusing on being anonymous, you're not even close to being anonymous on the internet. And I'm going to showcase a few ways that you're not, and I'm going to visualize it for you. So I used a Firefox add-in, and so far it's only for Firefox that I'm aware of, called Lightbeam. What Lightbeam does is it's going to showcase visually the tracking data that is being exploited from your everyday interactions with websites. So I took a few here as an example. This is a normal daily run through Disney.com to the New York Times, to other MSN sites. And I wanted to see what these websites were capturing on me as I was surfing and clicking through their links. So as you can see here, these tiles represent all of the interactions that a website, all of the plugins and different add-ons that the website has, that it tracks personally identifiable information from you. And so in that circle, you're going to see all of these transactions being shared amongst these websites. So if you've ever encountered surfing the internet and maybe looking for how to tile a bathroom, and then all of a sudden you go to a news site and on the side there is an advertisement on tile and grout, you know exactly what's going on. They're sharing the data. They're sharing your data. So who's taken this data and why? So one of the headlines here is that, I don't know if you know this, but Google knows a tremendous amount about each one of us because we use all of their services, from Android to Gmail to the search engine, right? YouTube being another one, and they keep gobbling up companies. Nest is another one. So they're going to continue to know more and more about you. However, there are 9 companies now that know more about you than Google. Because that is their mission, to know more about you. What they're trying to do is gather data segments on each and every one of you. And so what they can do is target advertise. For instance, advertising in the newspaper, I think, is a lost art, or a lost game now, because they're targeting people that are left-handed with a dog named Rover in a certain zip code. So they get down to the very nitty and gritty. What I thought was interesting here is there's 3,000 data segments for nearly every U.S. customer, and that is only one of the data brokers. They track you through cookies. These are session identification tokens that are placed on your computer when you visit a site. Most of the time you can block them if you choose. However, a lot of times sites won't function properly if you don't have cookies enabled. They won't remember your login. They won't allow you to interact with it in the way that you wish. Java, Flash, and browser plugins are all plugins that actually capture a lot of data on you, including IP address, browser type, etc. And then the IP address simply is, as you guys probably all know, identifies you not only geographically, but it's truly like your home address. So how do you not get tracked when you're browsing? Well, I'm going to show you a couple ways here. Number one, I don't want to be tracked and I don't know anything technically. So I'm going to go through the normal iterations of browser security. Tools, don't track me. Private browsing. These are built into Firefox. These are built into Internet Explorer. However, when that happens, as you can see, I still have residuals that come about. So there are ways in which you can do it through the native browser. However, these browsers also want you to have a good experience with their browser. And so they don't block as much as they should for the security conscious, privacy conscious. This is an example of me using Firefox's built-in privacy controls. So I went from nothing on the left to something built in on the right. As you can see, it did help remove some of the tracking and some of the data sharing, however, not much. We're not seeing much of a gain. Okay, so now how do I get to this point, right? Now there's nothing in this circle. People aren't sharing data at this point with me whenever I browse. Now this is a very simple, and there's many like this, browser add-ons. Okay, and they even have mobile browser add-ons now. This one is specifically called Ghostery. Okay, and this is a free tool. You add it into your Firefox or your IE. Normal browsing sessions now don't have the capability of tracking you between site to site. As you can see, it's kind of a hub and spoke there. So there are going to be a few sites that within their own proprietary technology do some analytics and tracking on their own, but they're not going to share them across sites and domains. So as I said here, Ghostery is the main one that I use. It's tried and true. I know there are some other ones out there that do the same thing, and they're readily available for all browsers. Let's take a look at this one. I had a little fun here with the NSA access. But what I really truly want to iterate here is that Ghostery plus one other layer of protection, which is called Tor, in this Tor network. You might have heard it. It was recently in the news with Silk Road. Those guys having the Silk Road website being taken down. They were exclusively using the Tor network. The Tor network allows anonymous browsing through a layer of protocols on top of your normal internet protocols. So this is encrypting your data, and it's not allowing the end result, msn.com, to know who tried to access it. And I'll explain that in a minute. But as you can see here, even the hub and spoke with the proprietary tracking within each website, even that is hampered. Now, what is Tor? Tor is something I don't recommend for the everyday user. I think the everyday user is going to have a noticeably hampered internet experience if they use Tor. So it was designed by and for the U.S. Naval Research Laboratory. Government always gets the good stuff first. And what we see here is it's anonymizing your location, your experience, your computer. In a nutshell, once you use the Tor network and you say I want to go to msn.com, it is encrypting that information, sending it to an array of freely available Tor nodes. And that node is saying, okay, I know where you want to go. I'm going to send it to another node. And I'm going to truncate the information about you. So it truncates the last node that it hits, thereby anonymizing that connection. And so when it wants to come back, it has to absolutely know who the last person was that it sent it to. So MSN says, okay, I'll just send it to you instead of going all the way over to me. And so it goes through this relay process. This relay process really slows down the connection experience. But if you're really a privacy advocate, this is where you want to be. If you have, I guess, something to hide, this is also where you want to be. Okay, so let's compare. Let's put this up visually here. What we can see here is the very beginning. I didn't have anything on the left, and on the right now, I've added 2 layers of protection, and none of my information is being shared. Nothing's being captured. My browsing experience is there's a big latency with using Tor. But that's why I said initially use a plugin like Ghostery. Because if you're not necessarily worried about your IP address being tracked, then you have no real need to use Tor. So why do they want your information? I already went through this, guys. They want to create a persona on each and every one of you. They want to know exactly who you are, where you shop, how big your family is, because they want to be able to sell to you, directly to you. I kind of liken it to if you've ever seen Minority Report and they walk into the store, it scans your face and it says, hey Jared, I got some new jeans for you over here that I think you would like. It's going down that path, and I think we might actually see something like that. Advertisement is in this data broker. This is big money. The point I want to make with data sharing is that it is not just the Amazons of the world. It's not just the Home Depots of the world. This report right here from UC Berkeley highlights that fact, and it says the small mom and pop restoration hardware, whenever it had a sale, it would gather your name, your address, and what you purchased, and it sent all those data points to a cooperative, therein by sending it to what is now Datalogics. Okay, so these people find a way to get that information. This can have a positive and negative effect. I mean, really, there's a flip coin. It's all about your perspective. I absolutely love the fact that Amazon.com, I can get on there and I can get book recommendations, or I can buy a tile saw and see the recommended other tile necessities that I would need. I think that's fantastic. And so there are good and evil with that data. So it's all about how you look at it. But the point I want to drive home here is that I freely give my information to Amazon. These data brokers, I don't freely give that information to them. They take that information. And specifically, they take it without me knowing it. So let's move on to social media. This is another part of your footprint. I am not going to belabor this because I took my own advice and I'm not on social media. Except for LinkedIn, because I choose to be on LinkedIn. I know exactly what goes on there. And I'm okay with that being public. I'm not updating all the time. But I look at social media as, I just had this discussion this morning too. There is a site out there, or a trend, where people post their first paycheck. So these young teenagers are getting a paycheck and they're posting it. Look at my first paycheck. So you have to be smart about this. Obviously, you get, from the chuckles in the room, you guys know that that's not a good idea. There's a whole bunch of personal identifying information, and you're showing it for the whole world to know. So, like I would tell my kids as they get older, just think, anything that you post, you better know that your mom is going to know about it, and your dad, and you better post stuff knowing that potentially a felon or somebody that wants to do you harm is going to know about it. And that might be, hey guys, I'm on this great business trip, or I've got a family vacation planned, and now a felon potentially watching that is going to know you're out of the state. Email is probably the most headache that me as an IT administrator have. It is inherently at its root insecure. Encryption is actually very difficult to implement in email, and it is pretty much the gateway for all things malware, in my personal opinion. Now, when we're talking about privacy, the free email does come with a cost. Free email you give them the right to scan through your email, Gmail or Yahoo, to scan through all of your email and to pick out keywords and stuff that you might be interested in. So if I'm emailing Gabe and I'm saying, I'm going to a concert next week, guess what? Whenever I pull up that email, you betcha on the side, there's ads about concert tickets, Ticketmaster. Okay, so these people know what they're doing. So they are making money. Nothing is free. There's no free lunch. Now, how do we take action? Here's a few tips. Okay, we're talking about geolocation right now. This is checking in. Foursquare was popular. I don't know if it still is anymore. And what it does is it tags your GPS location. I mean, these phones right here, these iPads, they know where you are at all times. Okay, so without you even knowing it, even with the smarter DSLR cameras these days that my wife has, there's a GPS chip in it. And so basically what it does is allows you, with clever software, it allows you to give you a timeline of your events based on your pictures. When and where, so there's a good aspect to it. I think people have the right heart whenever they put this together. However, it can be used for malicious items. So a lot of apps, a lot of pictures the geolocation information is already plugged into that. Okay, so if you don't remove it, or you explicitly say, I don't want this tag information to be put on here, you're going to have this information available. How is this bad? Let's take one example. I post something to social media with a recent picture. Okay? Somebody can take that information or take that photo, bring it down, plug it through easy software, and see exactly where I was and the time of when I took that picture. These are examples, basic examples of how to turn off or guard against that. Your iOS device is typically going to ask you these days if you want to allow it to use your GPS location. However, you can go into location services on your apps and remove that information from it. You can also use a free program called Pixel Guard. I believe there's even an app for it. So if you have a regular camera that you bought that's not a cell phone camera, a lot of times they'll put tag information in there. You can actually take and run your pictures through this Pixel Guard, and it will strip out all of that metadata. So you're free to kind of, post on social media if you'd like after that. Here's the topic I really like when we're guarding against internet trolls and thieves, is disinformation. I'm a big proponent of disinformation. I like to muddy the waters, okay? And I'm not saying disinformation is a one-all, end-all, be-all. I'm just saying that disinformation is a layer of protection. So have alternate credentials. When you're at Radio Shack, which I guess you'll never be at Radio Shack again, but if you're at a store like that, Home Depot, and they ask you for your phone number, have something memorized. Okay, don't go through that awkward process of, no, I'm not going to give you my phone number. Well, why not? That's awkward for people. People would just as soon give that information away rather than have to tell somebody no. So have something else memorized instead. I do that currently. I made up a fake phone number, and that's what I use everywhere I go. Sign up for rewards if you must, using a fake name. And then get creative with your alternate identification on the internet. And I'm talking about an alternate ID for the internet, okay? You shouldn't have an alter ego, I guess, for other normal stuff. Mine, however, was, I'm not going to tell you my current one.
Oh, no, you changed it from Bobby Socks.
Is Bobby Socks. If you are not creative like I am with Bobby Socks, I guess, there is a fake name generator, a complete fake persona generator on the internet, named fakenamegenerator.com. You can't go wrong with it, right? I should have got that URL. It will actually, for free, we'll give you certain information, and then for a fee, we'll give you additional information like Social Security numbers that are no longer in circulation. Okay, so these items are real, keep in mind. These names, these phone numbers, these addresses are all real. However, they're all scrambled So the address doesn't match the phone number, doesn't match the phone number, doesn't match the social security number, etc. So you can use this to actually, you're looking at me weird because I know what you're thinking. You can use this to actually get away with, having a legit online persona. With the disinformation, I don't care if people know my fake persona. I'll give it to them all day long. They'll eat it up, but they're not going to know my habits. And they're not going to know that it ties back to Jared. So public information is a little more difficult. Let's move on to that. It's a little more difficult to mask. I was surprised to find out that whenever I sold my house, it was freely available, or bought my house, it was freely available on the internet. I did a quick search for my name, and that public record came out and showed exactly where I live, how much I paid for the house, and date and time and all that kind of stuff. That was just a quick one and done Google search. Okay, so if you're not interested in that, here's some steps. I recommend a New Mexico LLC to do those transactions with. Wow, I'm getting deep into the weeds now. Okay, so if we want to do, this doesn't sound as scary and as black mask as you would think. However, a New Mexico LLC basically is going to anonymize your transactions in the real world. Buy a car through it. Buy your house through it. Okay? It's going to disassociate you with that purchase. And it's going to put it under the LLC persona. So these public records then become anonymous or basically not tied back to you. Now, I'm not saying that a private eye is not going to, if somebody's really keen on knowing who you are, is not going to be able to trace you back. But I am saying for the 80-20 rule, 80% of this is going to be helpful to you. Now, you asked about some public data brokers. These are public data brokers. A very quick, all of these will pop up as soon as you Google search your name, and everybody's going to vie for your attention. Okay, I want you to come here because I know more information about this person. So these are all public data brokers. You can pay a fee, and you can basically become your own private eye. So this is near and dear to my heart too, and this is that public data brokers will allow you to opt out, but I would like to see the law change to being able to opt in instead of opting out. Okay, so that means that the door is already closed. You have the choice of opening the door. And that's just from an IT perspective and from a physical security perspective. That's how everything is done, right? You close the doors and you allow people to walk in. This disinformation is going to greatly reduce your digital footprint. And there's great people out there right now, privacy advocates, lobbying to change that opt-out, opt-in law. So this is a real-world opt-out paper. This came to my house. This is from Farmers Insurance. Okay, and I had to check the box and mail it back in a very non-discreet kind of envelope, which it looks just like every other piece of trash mail that you get. I just happened to open this one and I saw this opt-out form. I know for a fact that I missed this one in a prior year, and within 6 months, all of that information that I painstakingly took off of the internet came right back on because of a single piece of mail and because of data brokers sharing that information. I wanted to end it with a short video to really drive the point home. There's not a good way to steer clear of people. Once it's out there, and you're never going to get that back.